My name is Nick, and welcome to my channel, where I like to talk about scary stuff, and basically whatever else I want to talk about within the film and television space, because I'm doing something different today by going over everything I watched in the month of February for 2023. Now, if you don't follow any other content creators who do this, basically I'm going to go through my Letterboxd diary and just talk about the movies that I watched. If you aren't using Letterboxd, it's a really fun website/app that you can use to log the movies that you watch. I, of course, grade my movies, so you're going to see some grades for some recent films. It's going to be a good time. I suggest you get on there and follow me so you can see this all in real time. I'm going to tell you right off the bat that I watch a ridiculous amount of movies, and you guys are going to be like, what do you even do with your life? And to that I say, watch these movies. That's why I started a channel. I'm a true fan here, okay? So let's begin the month off with Human Resources. This is a movie I clearly did not particularly care for. It's about this man who gets a job at a hardware store and like uncovers corruption, but also maybe paranormal things are happening, and it just took way too long to get into this movie. And I hate to say a movie is just too low budget for me, but just the acting was poor, the cinematography was poor, like it was all just not very good. So it says it's a 2021 movie, but it was released in 2023, so I'll be considering it a 2023 movie when I put this on my worst of the year list. So next up is Christine. I rewatched Christine. This is a John Carpenter, Stephen King classic about, of course, a car that is alive. I don't know. It doesn't really matter, but it's a really fantastic story about bullying and, of course, kind of coming into your own and whatnot. I feel like I don't need to explain Christine to you. This is just a movie I particularly really enjoy. Gave it a 4 out of 5. Really good. Smile Before Death is a movie I don't remember watching. I don't know what this is. This is, I believe, a Giallo film. Probably watched it on Shudder or something, but I guess it was good enough, 3 out of 5, that's fine. Buried Alive, this one I do remember. It's about this woman who becomes a new prep school teacher and goes to this prep school where there are people being buried alive in the basement. What's going on? It was just not it. It was just, no, it was just very direct to video, very not good, very boring, didn't really go far enough, didn't present enough. You could skip it. Polaroid is a movie that I probably should tell you to skip, but for some reason I was kind of into it. Like, as someone who grew up on these PG-13 supernatural thrillers that like all wanted to be The Ring in the 2000s, this is totally trying to be that. It's about a Polaroid camera that like kills you if you take your picture with it. And I mean, it wasn't good, and I honestly stopped paying attention towards the end, so I can't even give this a decent review, but I gave it a 2.5 out of 5. I thought it was okay. Not so okay was Down, this Naomi Watts early 2000s thriller about a killer elevator. I was really on something this month. There's some weird stuff here, but it sounds interesting, and Naomi Watts, but it was like a monster elevator. It was just not very good. I would skip it. I think I watched that on Amazon Prime. Now here's a big one. The first big one is Sick, the latest Kevin Williamson slasher. He didn't direct it, but of course he co-wrote it, and he's the writer of Scream and I Know What You Did Last Summer. Kevin Williamson, big deal for me. So I was really hyped about this movie because I heard that it was just a home invasion slasher, back to Kevin Williamson's roots, very like chase scene heavy. I was very excited about that. I don't think it entirely delivered on the thrills and the scares. Oddly enough, I found the comedic commentary to be more interesting. Like, that's what really got me. I really enjoyed the COVID commentary in this movie because it really seemed to be kind of, didn't we all just sort of lose our minds in the pandemic? Like, that's kind of seems what it was going for. I do want to do a full review for this one, but I'll tell you now, I gave it a 3 out of 5. I think it's good. I definitely think it's worth watching. Get on Peacock, give it a watch. I was in the mood for more teen slashers, so I went with There's Someone Inside Your House on Netflix. This is another one that isn't that good. It's actually based off of a young adult novel that I really enjoyed. I wish they stuck to the novel because it's actually a pretty good Scream copycat, but the movie itself doesn't really stick the landing, but it does have the teen slasher vibes that I live for, so 3 out of 5. If you haven't watched it, it's on Netflix. I'd give it a go. Then I watched Infinite Storm because Naomi Watts, again, she just gets me with these terrible movies. I don't know what to tell you, but this is, I guess, based off a true story about she's like a park ranger, I think, even, and mountain climber, and she finds this man who is injured on this mountain. It's snowing. He does not have the proper equipment. He's totally gonna die, and so she tries to save his life. Well, she does save his life. Sorry, I also spoiled it. Based on a true story, whatever. But, I thought they were gonna die on this mountain, and I kind of wish they did. Like, not in real life, but like as a movie, it just, this guy, he like doesn't even say anything. He is just ruining the entire mission. He makes it so hard for her to help him. He just fucks everything up. It was so frustrating, so annoying. It was just not really worth it for me. There wasn't enough emotional heft to make it worth it. And it was literally just a movie of watching Naomi Watts like drag a man down a mountain. Like that was the entire movie. Skip it. No good. But you don't want to skip Triangle of Sadness. Best Picture nominee is Triangle of Sadness. I heard so much about this movie all year long. Took me a while to finally catch up with it. But I did, and I'm glad I did. It's really not my kind of movie, to be perfectly honest. Like, it's really not my kind of movie. I don't love the structure of it, even though it is, you could say, like, a perfect 3-act structure. I don't know, I have feelings, but it's still really good. I still really enjoyed this movie. I definitely think it's worth watching. It's, one of the many Eat the Rich movies that have come out recently, but it's very enjoyable, very satirical, and, it's definitely worth watching for sure. Next is The Invitation. Not the best movie from last year. I almost don't want to spoil it, because I think this movie is kind of okay. I'm not gonna lie. I think it's kind of okay. It's on Netflix. You can watch it. Go in blind. It's about this woman who basically travels to England for a wedding, and it's a spooky English mansion with maybe vampires. But I don't want to say anything more, because I actually think if the trailer didn't ruin this movie, it could have been a pretty interesting watch. I think it's decent if you're okay for like a cheesy, drink some wine and watch a silly romance horror movie. It's not very romantic, but The Invitation it's kind of the cheesy nonsense that I can have fun with. That's how I would put it. Next up is Tar, another big one. Tar, finally watched it on Peacock. I do wish I saw this in theaters, but you know what? I think I maybe had a better experience being able to just sort of immerse myself at home, oddly enough. This is one of those rare experiences where I feel like in the theater I may have gotten aggravated and given up, whereas, I don't know, maybe being cozy at home allowed me to really get into it, but you really do need to. It's a movie where you really need to like get yourself an hour to an hour and a half in to see how the pieces of the puzzle are lining up, but it really is a pretty brilliant film. Again, it's not another movie that's not really my kind of movie, so I'm not sure I'd watch it a whole ton, so I'm kind of giving it that 4 out of 5 on technical merit, and Cate Blanchett is fantastic. I really love Todd Field, who also did Little Children, a movie I love, so I think it's good. I definitely think it's worth watching. I think this is a movie that a lot of people don't want to give a shot, but definitely do. Even if you're just doing it because it's an Oscar nominee, just give it a watch. It's worth it. Next, I watched Knock at the Cabin. What a mistake. I hated this movie. I hated this movie a lot. I'm gonna have to do a full review on this. I definitely need to do a full breakdown of the book and the movie and how the movie ruins the story that it should be trying to tell. That's all I will say right now, but I hated Knock at the Cabin. I hated it a lot. Next is Alien. I started binging the Alien movies. I love Alien. It's one of my absolute favorites of all time. Anytime someone asks me what's your favorite horror film or what do you think is the best horror film, same question for me kind of. It's Alien. I mean, Alien and Rosemary's Baby are kind of like tied for my #1 slot. I don't know what to do, but Alien never gets old to me. I love this movie. I love everything about it. 5 out of 5. One of the easiest 5 out of 5s I've ever given. Aliens, of course, you got to do that double feature. You got to do the double feature with the Alien Director's Cut and the Aliens Special Edition. That's how it's done. Make a night out of it. Get a pizza. That's how you want to do it. Love Aliens. I do have to say, though, like, I feel like I grew up in this world where everyone wanted to say that Aliens was better than Alien, and I gotta tell ya, the more I watch Aliens, it's still great. It's still great. Don't get me wrong. I give it a 4.5 out of 5. I still love it, but I'm going to go on a mini James Cameron tangent here, because I feel the same way about this and Terminator 2, where there's very little action. The action is actually few and far between, and there are these long stretches of just like character work that doesn't really amount to development for me. So I have some conflicting feelings, but it's still a classic. It's still one of the greatest. I love it. So then I moved on to Predator. I'm doing Aliens and Predator last month. That was fun. Predator, movie about some mercenaries in the jungle, and they get hunted down by this ultimate warrior. I love it. I think this is probably the best gay macho movie that ever will exist, so it's amazing to me. It's so good. I give it a 3.5 out of 5. It isn't amazing. You know, it's not as good as Alien or Aliens, but I think it is a very good movie, even on rewatch. It's something that I'll constantly come back to. So I enjoy it. Same with Predator 2. You gotta do that double feature too. I actually really enjoy Predator 2. I only gave it a 2.5 out of 5 because it isn't the best. It doesn't sustain its runtime perfectly, but it's a good watch. You know, if you haven't given it a shot, I definitely would. Next up was The Postman Always Rings Twice. So this was an old school thriller from 1946, starring Lana Turner and some other guy. I don't know. But I really enjoyed this movie. Gave it a 3.5 out of 5. Not perfect. A little long. Not sexy enough because, you know, the 40s. But I really did enjoy this movie. I thought it was a fantastic story. I think we'll get to it later in this video. The remake, not as good, but definitely watch that. It's a good classic. Then I moved on to Alien 3. What a difficult one, because I really don't think that there is a bad Alien movie, but on this latest rewatch, I couldn't help but just not be as entertained as I would like to be by this movie. You know, none of the characters are really that interesting. The setting kind of sucks. Like, I do enjoy them trying to go back to that horror feel and be less action-oriented, but it needed some more action. This movie really needs some more action. I could really only give it a 2.5 out of 5. I want to give it a 3, but it's not very good. It just isn't. Alien Resurrection, on the other hand, is a movie that you might want to say is definitely bad, but I think it's fun. I think Alien Resurrection is fun. That's where it gets me. I'm like, you know what, Alien 3? Sorry, you're boring. Alien Resurrection, it's the fun one. I don't care. I'm into it a little bit more. Gave it a 3 out of 5. Next, we did Alien vs. Predator. My goodness, this movie is terrible. And it is kind of watchable. I can see where some people would have fun with it. The PG-13 rating is detrimental. It definitely takes it down. And this could be a much better movie. But as we saw with Alien vs. Predator Requiem, the R rating doesn't save it. So this movie is just so silly. It's just so silly, but not... It's like a silly that's taking itself seriously, but not in the right way. It just doesn't work. It's pretty lame, I think. The setting of Antarctica is cool, though. But so then we moved on to Scream. Scream is just one of my favorite movies of all time. And I really waver between giving it a 5 out of 5. Right now it's at the 4.5 out of 5. But it's like just a notch below perfect because of some pacing issues that I do have that do come up every time I watch it. I'm like, yeah, but that is kind of a problem. But overall, I mean, Scream, classic. I just, leading up to the latest, Scream 5, I watched the first 4 over and over. I've been binging them constantly over the last couple of years, and it's truly become my favorite horror franchise. I love the Scream movies. So, same with Scream 2. A lot of people find this maybe controversial. I also give it a 4.5 out of 5. I think it's basically as good as the original. I think it basically does what it's supposed to, and that it does the same commentary, but for sequels. I think it ups the ante just the right amount, but it also is really where we have all of the character development that is really the backbone of the entire rest of the franchise. So I think Scream 2 is really important, and I think it's underrated, and I think people give it a lot of shit unfairly, and I don't know, I just think it deserves some more love. Scream 3, I don't need to tell you that this movie needs some love. I mean, my goodness, Parker Posey alone sends that message. But Scream 3, I know, is technically not very good. It was ruined in the edit by the MPA, and it was, of course, rushed, and it's a whole different thing. Scream goes to Hollywood, but, you know, the way I see it is this one is the entry that just becomes a pure comedy. It's just a comedy now, and I enjoy it. I think it's really fun. I think it's a damn good time, and it's not the worst Scream movie in the franchise. So, next up, we, of course, go to Scream 4, where this is a movie I love it more and more every time I watch it. I love this movie. I love Scream 4. It's probably just the most Scream, you know what I mean? Like the most Scream movie. You can just throw it on and have the most fun with it. It's just like the breeziest of the bunch, I think. And I do hate the opening. I honestly skip the opening. Like, everything about this movie is good except for that opening. I just hate it. But, you know, I skip it and move on to the good parts. I think you can do the same thing too. Then Scream 5. It has been a roller coaster with this movie. When I first saw it last year, I was very disappointed. I then moved on to hating it. I have now kind of come around, and I think it has enough good stuff. It's okay. It's fine. It just does some really stupid stuff. I'm going to do a full spoilery review just to kind of go over my thoughts on it, but right now that's the worst of the franchise for me. So next is Midnight Movie. You're gonna be like, how on earth do you like this movie more than Scream 5? I just do. It is a movie theater slasher film about sort of the slasher coming to life in the movie theater. I think it's fun. It's very cheap, low budget, but in a way that pulls it off. It has enough of a story and enough interesting aspects that kind of make it worth it to sit through that low quality. At least for me. Next was #Float. A movie I was really excited about, honestly. I thought could be good. And then, it ended up on Tubi about a month after it was released. And I said, oh no. No, it's really bad. Just skip it. It's really boring. It's just influencer nonsense on rafts and kind of supernatural thing. Just skip it. It's not good. Even though it's on Tubi, just skip it. Consecration is a movie from Christopher Smith, who did... What else did he do? I know he did Triangle, Black Death, Severance, and Creep. I love Severance and Creep. So, of course, I did want to see this because, of course, it also stars Jenna Malone, and there's just bloody nun imagery. So, I actually went to a theater to see this, and... maybe just seeing it in the theater made it seem kind of better than it actually was at first, because the way it goes, this movie is just really not good. I don't want to spoil anything, but what it tries to do, it almost tries to set up like a horror superhero character, and I'm just not into it, not feeling it. It's on Shudder, so you can watch it now. I thought it was finely made enough, but... you could skip it. Next was Venom. Again, feeling those teen slasher vibes, leading into Scream, So this is one that a lot of people don't even know about or talk about. It's not that good. I gave it a 3 out of 5, and I know that it's, maybe more of a 2 out of 5. This wasn't written by Kevin Williamson, but it was produced by him. It was originally titled Backwater. This is the type of movie I would love to remake, because it wasn't fully well done, but I think it's a great concept about this outcast man who is attacked by these voodoo snakes, and he's possessed, and then he's this swamp monster guy coming after these teens in the Louisiana swamp. I think it's Louisiana. I actually don't know. They're probably in Florida. Oh, Louisiana. Yeah, okay, I had it right. Oh, that's good. But I just enjoy this movie. Oh, it's from the director of I Know What You Did Last Summer. That's what has those vibes. It's teen slasher vibes. Just give it a go. It's fun if you're into that. Next is Blow Up. A movie that I have tried to watch so many times that I wish I liked, but this movie's not good, you people. It is not good. It's just 260s for its own good, and it's just really weird. The main character is a creeper. It really just has one good scene where this character discovers in some photos that he's taken an attempted murder or the potential for a crime he finds in this photo. It's a good scene, but lodged in a pretty whatever movie. Very not good to me. No, didn't like it. Then I watched Blowout to wash the taste out of my mouth, and this is actually a fantastic Brian De Palma film about a sound engineer who discovers a murder while recording some sound, and this is the one you want to watch. Blowout is fantastic. The ending will destroy you, as my review says. Next up is 9.5 Weeks. Okay, listen. One, I love Adrian Lyne, the director of this film. He also made Fatal Attraction and Jacob's Ladder. I think he just makes the most sumptuous films. Sumptuous, I say. And I love an erotic thriller. I love an 80s or 90s erotic film. And I used to really enjoy this movie, and I don't know why. This movie is not good. It's kind of the original 50 Shades of Grey. It's about this woman who engages in this relationship. Kim Basinger dating Mickey Rourke, and he's kind of doing some S&M stuff, and she's falling in love with him, but he's really not falling in love with her. He's just doing some sexcapades, and she eventually gets tired of his shit. It's kind of pointless. It's really not that interesting. Then I watched this Giallo, The Killer is One of 13, another movie that I would love to remake because it has such a fantastic concept and idea, but the way that it just goes about things, it's just really doesn't provide enough. It just doesn't really give enough of kills or intrigue or anything. It just was kind of halfway there for me. But, that's just how it goes sometimes. Next up is Attachment. This is a Shudder horror film that really should have just been a romantic drama. It's about these two women who meet and one gets injured, so the other woman decides to go to her home with her where her very religious and kooky mother lives, who is probably homophobic, but maybe it's just supernatural elements. This really just should not have been a horror film, in my opinion. I found the first half to be really engaging as we focused on this relationship between these two women, and then also the dynamic with the mother added as well was very interesting. Even though we can be over the typical, homophobia gay films, I still think that would have honestly been more interesting than where this movie goes, because it just ends up being a very, derivative possession film. I honestly wasn't really into it, but it was decent enough. I really liked that first half, so that was good. Then I watched Twisted, an Ashley Judd mid-2000s thriller. I do love these kind of style of thrillers, and I actually forgot the ending to this one. I thought that it was a different thing. I thought Ashley Judd was the killer. I guess I spoiled it. She isn't, but I thought that's how it went, so I thought it would be a fun rewatch, but I found it decently surprising enough because I had forgotten that. Although it is not that good. It's just a 2.5 out of 5. For me, it's very basic. But next is Play Misty for me, the original Fatal Attraction. If you have not watched this movie, it is on Netflix, and thank goodness. I mean, it is directed by Clint Eastwood, so you would, I think it's his first film too, actually. So you might be like, I don't need to watch a Clint Eastwood movie, but it's literally Fatal Attraction. Like, Fatal Attraction literally copied this movie so hard. I think Fatal Attraction is better, but still, Play Misty for me is the original. Definitely give it a watch. I watched that on Valentine's Day. Of course I did. Then I watched Valentine. Oh, gosh, do I even need to talk about Valentine? I reviewed it last year. You can watch that. I love Valentine so much. Then My Bloody Valentine. My Bloody Valentine 3D, you may say, the remake. I love this one, too. It's just so good. I should review this one next year. It captures everything I love of a slasher. It's like the mixture of an 80s slasher and a 90s slasher. A little bit of that Scream whodunit flavor. I think this one's underrated. I think a lot of people just hate it because of that, ridiculously long nude scene, and I can understand that. But just, there's a lot of other good stuff in here. And then, of course, I had to watch the original My Bloody Valentine. I think probably the best 80s slasher ever. I think it's so good. And they have the gore cut on HBO Max. Like, you kind of have to look for it. Like, you have to click on My Bloody Valentine and then, like, scroll down, and it's like, extra features, the unrated version. Oh my God. If you have not gotten the opportunity to see the intended cut of this film with all of the gore intact, like, it is, honestly, I think even without it, it's still a good movie, but like, with all those bloody body pieces, it is crazy. It is truly a bloody Valentine. Next, I watched Universal Soldier, and I kind of had this on in the background. I just was leaving HBO Max, thought I'd give it a watch, but really didn't pay attention to it, so I didn't grade it. It's whatever, I don't know, you could watch it. Killer Party. Oh my goodness, of all of the fun slasher movies I watched this month, this isn't really much of a slasher. This is more of a like Evil Dead, Night of the Demons style movie, but I will say the horror stuff doesn't really get involved until like maybe the last half hour, but that's okay, because the first hour of it is such a fun college campus 80s movie about these like 3 women who are like joining a sorority and going through the hazing or whatever. But it's just a wild, wacky movie. It opens with this weird, like, drive-in musical sequence. This is just one of the best underseen, underrated movies. It's one I've been wanting to watch for years. Hasn't been on streaming. It's on Screambox right now, and it is a must-watch. Like, get Screambox just to watch that movie. It's so good. I saw Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, whatever. That was a waste of time. And then I rewatched Annihilation. Oh my God. I love this movie. One of the best sci-fi films I've ever seen. Really is sci-fi horror. A lot of people I don't think give this enough credit for being a horror film. It is, and it's fantastic. Next, I watched Final Stab. Okay, so this is one of those movies that I remember seeing the cover of at Blockbuster all the time, never watched it, found it on YouTube. It's like about this group of people who go to, I think, an island or something for like a murder mystery dinner getaway thing, and then actual murders happen. Great in concept. It's a 1.5 out of 5 for me in terms of the execution, though. It was not good. Then I watched Piggy, a movie I had heard so much about from last year. A lot of people loved this out of the festivals. It's about this bullied, overweight young woman living in Spain, dealing with all of the pressures of life, and some events take place in her town that she becomes entangled in, and it goes from there. I thought this was going to be more of a revenge film. I gave it a 3.5 out of 5, but like, the more I think about it, the less I like this movie. It's on Hulu, so you can kind of make up your own mind about it, but I found it to be technically well done, and it had a very interesting story. I liked the way that the story shifted and moved and kind of went along and did its own thing, but then it ultimately wasn't very satisfying in terms of the character's arc and everything. It wasn't very satisfying to me. Then I watched Somebody I Used to Know on Amazon Prime. It's a romantic comedy, kind of, from Dave Franco that stars Allison Brie. They're married. They've been doing a lot of work together. Like, what was it? The Rental? I don't like that. This was really good, though. And I could tell, like, right off the bat that it wasn't necessarily going to be a romantic comedy. It was going to be more about Allison Brie's character sort of discovering herself. It's kind of the plot of almost every, like, Christmas romantic comedy, like every Christmas movie on Netflix or Lifetime or something. It's this woman. She goes back to her hometown, bumps into her old ex. He just so happens to be getting married, and she kind of thinks there's still a spark and wants to explore that. But it's not a fantasy about them getting back together. It's not that at all. It's much more human and interesting with surprising nudity. But I really enjoyed it. I think it was really good, especially for, even though it isn't like actually a rom-com, it's still in the vein of a rom-com, and we don't get good rom-coms anymore. So again, it's on Amazon Prime. I would definitely recommend watching that one. The Outwaters, another Screambox movie. I have a bit of a review on here. I don't know how to grade this one just yet. I am going to have to do a review of it. This is a very divisive film, and it's difficult because I can see exactly all of the things that people would hate about this movie. I think it worked for me. It scared me. It scared the shit out of me. And, I think it's interesting. There's a conversation happening right now that's basically like Skinamarink versus the Outwaters. Hated Skinamarink. Wouldn't say I loved the Outwaters, but the Outwaters is my preferred one of those two. It's, again, one you just kind of have to watch for yourself. I'll get into it more at another time. Then I watched The Mummy from 1999. Who doesn't love The Mummy? Oh my god. This is maybe one of those movies that I could credit for getting me into horror, because it's like a light horror action adventure. It never gets old. This is so good. I love The Mummy. I love it so much that I even love The Mummy Returns, which is, I watched this all the time as a kid. I remember going to see it in theaters as a kid. I love The Mummy Returns. It's not good. It's not good. But it's a movie that I think doesn't need to be. Same with... Nope, not there yet. Actually, we're going to talk about Fade to Black. A movie I actually enjoyed more before I recently rewatched it, because I want to review it, and I initially gave this a 4 out of 5. It's a character study from 1980 about this movie-obsessed man living in LA who wants to work in showbiz, but is really sort of held up by his own fandom, and he's so socially awkward. He only speaks in movie quotes. He can't really connect with people. He is painfully relatable, but in such an annoying way. I don't know why I enjoyed this character so much more the first time that I watched this movie. I just really connected with the guy on the last watch, but on this one, I just found him to be so grating and annoying, and of course he becomes a villain, and I love a character study horror film, but this one I really felt like I couldn't fully connect with it. It was kind of a bummer to rewatch, not gonna lie. But then I watched The Scorpion King. This is what I want to talk about. This one is also not good, but doesn't need to be. I remember reading the actual, oh my god, look at The Rock's face there. It's so silly to me. On Michael Clark Duncan, we miss you. But I remember reading the, junior novelization of this when I was a kid before I saw it. So I was like, yeah, man, I know what happens in The Scorpion King, and it's cool. It's not good, but, it's fun. You know what else is fun? Fucking Survival Island. Or I think it was Demon Island on Tubi where I watched this. But it has Nicholas Brendon from Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and it's about all of these, you know, college students, early 20s kids who go to this island to party, and get this, there is a killer piñata. It is a demon in a piñata killing them. It is insane. It's hilarious. I would watch it again in a heartbeat. Next up was Cocaine Bear. Oh, spoiler, I gave it a 3 out of 5. I'm gonna do a review for this. I really want to talk about it. It did not meet the expectations, but it was still a very enjoyable film to watch. I would definitely go see it if you haven't already. Then I saw The Overnight, another movie. I'm catching up on movies from last year so I can do some breakdown lists of like the best and worst and mediocre, disappointing, surprising. Some different lists are coming, but I'm trying to watch as many 2022 horror films as I can, which means I watched this stupid ass movie, The Overnight. It's on Tubi. You could watch it for yourself. It's about this couple. They're on a road trip. They get stuck at this old hotel, and it's weird, and it's time loopy, and it wants to be The Shining, and it's not good. It sucked. It was terrible, and I'm so sick, I have to say, because just like that hashtag float movie, there's a couple where the woman is an influencer or wannabe influencer, and her boyfriend is just like, when are you gonna stop doing that? Like, it's never gonna work out for you. But it's like, why are you two together? Like, it just feels to me like we're getting all these movies written by people probably my age or older, but like looking down on influencer culture and stuff, and like not fully understanding it, or people in general, and it's just really frustrating and annoying, and just I could not connect with these characters. They were not developed or built in an interesting way to follow them throughout a horror film, so skip it hard. That movie sucked. I'm sorry. Then I watched Slashback, another movie that I'm catching up on from last year. I'd heard so many good things, and it's on Shudder. It actually is pretty good. For as low budget as it is, I think it really does a good job of accomplishing what it sets out to do. Not the most entertaining to me personally, but as far as like the creature work and what it's going for with the horror elements, I found to be very surprisingly interesting. It's very The Thing, so if you like that, I think you'll be into it. Then I watched Nocebo. Oh, I love Eva Green. I could watch Eva Green, I don't know. I could watch her slap me across the face, and I'd still be like, God, that was fantastic. But this movie is not good. It has a really good message and a really good story and what it's going for. I don't want to spoil it. But again, it's one of those movies where it's like, it's kind of just happening until the end when it decides to tell you what it's actually about. And then you're like, okay, well, I mean, like, that's interesting, but like, what the fuck was the rest of this movie? Like, it's this woman, Eva Green, has this like mysterious illness, and then this random woman shows up one day to help her, and she's using all of these like holistic remedies to try and treat her, but it ends up kind of being like a long form torture session. It again, good story and message, but just not good. I rewatched Megan because they put the unrated cut on Peacock. What a disappointment to find out that the unrated cut really just adds some F-bombs and like a very brief like half-second shot of gore and some blood in the hallway scene. Like, there's some more blood there, but like there really wasn't that much that was added. In fact, I think it was actually a smart move for them to cut it down to PG-13 for the theatrical release. Still kills me how they kind of botched the ending on this one, but I'm still ready for Megan 2.0. Bring it to me. Give it to me now. Then I watched Blank, another technological thriller. This one also marked as 2021, but I know was released in 2022, so part of my catch-up game. This one is about a writer who goes to a writer's retreat, this cottage in the English countryside, where she has a robot lady sort of taking care of her while she's supposed to write, but the robot lady goes haywire and locks her in this cottage, and then she's trapped there until she finishes her novel, and it ends up being very much about the novel that she's writing and kind of goes into that, and it's sort of like two stories in one. It's not perfectly well done. It isn't the best horror film or thriller. It really kind of gives up on its thriller elements, to be honest, but I still found it to be well done. I would honestly still recommend it if you can get into it. Then I watched Prometheus, continuing my Alien binge, and okay, Prometheus is a difficult one. It just is. Like, I give it a 4 out of 5. I really enjoy it. I really like it. I really see why other people don't. And all the obvious problems with it. It's a mood, man. I don't know. It's a vibe. I vibe with Prometheus. I don't know what to tell you. Oh my gosh, don't do this to me, Letterboxd. So next is the remake of The Postman Always Rings Twice. As I mentioned, not as good. Just because they added some more sex scenes, some weird, odd, not what I wanted to see sex scenes between Jack Nicholson and Jessica Lange. Just, my goodness. Just watch the original. Watch the original, please. Then I watched Pandorum. A lot of people seem to enjoy this movie. This is, again, I'm doing some space stuff, watching space movies, so I thought I'd give this one another shot. It's about the crew of this ship in space, and, it all goes to hell, so then they turn into cannibals, and it's horribly filmed and edited. It's not watchable to me. I'm not into it. Don't stop upload. Okay, why is Letterboxd doing this? So then I moved over to The Ruins, a vacation horror film that I love, leaving on HBO Max, or it did leave HBO Max, so I just wanted to watch it before it went. Still love it. Always love it. It's so good. So good. Then I watched Supernova, another terrible space movie, but this one I like. If you haven't seen it, it's on Amazon Prime. This movie has a horrible production story. It just went through so many different iterations. It's odd. I don't know. I saw part of it as a kid, and so it just kind of stuck with me. It's also just weird. I love a good weird sci-fi movie, so I'm into it. Then I watched The Inhabitant, a movie, again, I'm catching up on from last year. I did not like this movie. It was not good. It's just not good. It's trying to be a Lizzie Borden-inspired movie. Okay, I like true crime. I like horror films. I really don't think that there's much of a, crossover. They should not intersect. I think they should be their own things. And this wants to use the story of Lizzie Borden and then say that there's this evil spirit that goes through the women of the Borden family, and we're now following this teen girl who believes that she may be getting the Lizzie Borden curse next, or maybe it's schizophrenia. I don't know what's gonna happen. I don't even want to talk about where this movie goes. I'll just say that it does star the actress from the latest Hellraiser movie, and I thought that she was really good, but the movie itself was not. And then I finished the month out watching Nope. Okay. Nope is a movie that I'm gonna want to do a review on. I've gotta do a full review to talk about this movie. I have complicated feelings. I sure do, especially after this latest rewatch. You may have noticed I gave it a 3 out of 5, which may seem low for this movie that is so beloved, but I have issues with it. I have problems with it. So I do have to talk about them in detail to really explain my thoughts. But I do have to say I really appreciated more on this last rewatch. I think I'll bump it up to a 3.5 out of 5, to be honest, which is what I gave Get Out and Us. So that's just kind of in line with how I feel about Jordan Peele movies, I guess. But my problem is that I think the structure of this film probably works for what Peele wants to do, but I don't think it's the best decision for what he's trying to say. And I do think the themes kind of clash a little bit. So I'll have to do a review of that, but Nope, last movie of the month. That's it for the movies that I watched in February, but I do want to talk about some TV shows that I've been watching. First up is Poker Face, a show on Peacock that stars Natasha Lyonne as Charlie, a woman who just naturally has the ability to tell when someone is lying. And I don't want to kind of give away how the show starts. You should just watch it, totally dive into it. But it's this great detective show where she's kind of on the run and on a road trip and stops off in these different towns all over the country. And there's always a star-studded cast, and she stumbles upon one murder or crime or attempted crime after another or some sort of mystery, and she uses her ability to tell who's lying to sort of suss out what happens in these situations. So I do want to say that I'd like to review this. I should do a review of season 1, but I'll tell you now, my biggest problem with it is the structure of the show. Every episode, or almost every episode, starts with showing us, the audience, the main characters of that particular episode, like the new villain and victim, and what happens in their scenario, and how this crime is committed, who dies, what have you. We see all that first, and then we go back and we kind of go through the scenario again and see that Charlie was there the whole time, And so then we're redoing it, and it's just kind of like, I really wish we were just seeing from the beginning the whole thing just sort of play out naturally, as opposed to showing us one thing and then being like, look, Charlie was there the whole time. I'm like, well, what the hell? And then they want to show us how she interacts with them. And it just clashes for me. It doesn't work. I really like the structure of the second episode, where we see the crime occur and then Charlie rolls into town and sort of stumbles upon what happens and figures things out. I think that's how the episodes should go personally, but who am I to say? And I also want to talk about another show that I've been watching throughout February, and that is Wolfpack on Paramount Plus, because it is the new show with Sarah Michelle Gellar. It is a very cheesy CW-style teen show about this wildfire in California and these teenagers who sort of get caught up in the events of this fire, and also there's an animal attack, and now they're turning into werewolves. And so there's a werewolf out there. Sarah Michelle Gellar is this arson investigator trying to question these teens, and there's more going on, and it is a very cheesy, not good show. It's airing weekly, and I watch it every Thursday anyway. I don't know what to tell you. That is everything that I watched in the month of February. Let me know what you guys are watching, or what thoughts you have about anything that I went over. Let me know in the comments if you want to see another one of these. We could do March. We can make this a regular thing. I mean, I know this video is going to be long because I watch a lot, but you know what? I do it for you. So if you want to know more of what I'm watching and hear more of my thoughts, feel free to follow me on Letterboxd. I'm going to try to do better about leaving some reviews so that you can hear some context to those grades. You can also follow me on Instagram, where I am going to start posting again. Boy, do I swear. I am back, guys. I am ready to do this. I am looking forward to making more videos consistently, regularly. I can't promise it'll be perfect, but I'm really excited to be back, and I really appreciate you guys sticking around and waiting for me and giving me the support that you've given me. It's really, really appreciated and very humbling. So thank you so much for watching this video. That's it for this one, but I won't stop you from watching another.